The Mario franchise has gone through a lot of changes throughout its nearly 35-year history, from 8-bit to 16-bit to the jump into the 3D space, and literal space. You can get many memorable experiences from the Mario franchise. These 3D games especially are once in a lifetime gaming experience if you have ever played these games before. From Mario 64 to Sunshine, then Galaxy 1 and 2, then we go to 3D Land, and since the land wasn't enough, Mario took over a 3D world. But by the time 3D World was released, the Mario series was experiencing major fatigue. There were 5 Mario games in 4 years, and all of these experiences were either inspired by a previous release or were very similar to other Mario games, making it very hard to differentiate each game from one another. Despite 3D World being an excellent game in its own right, it was not enough to save the console it was on, the Wii U. So then, afterwards, the Wii U became 2. So a change was in order for the series, and throughout the next 4 years, after the release of 3D World, Nintendo was at work trying to create a new, refreshing Mario experience. The first snippet of this game was in the Nintendo Switch reveal trailer, in which Mario was running around an orange-looking desert. It was confusing. We didn't know what the game could be about. The only thing that was very obvious to the people watching the trailer was that it was a 3D Mario game. But that one aspect, being a 3D Mario game and it looking like it's an open world Mario game, wasn't enough to excite players. Later, this new experience will be formally shown at the Nintendo Switch presentation in January 2017, where the Nintendo Switch and its games were shown in greater detail for the first time ever. There was Splatoon 2, Breath of the Wild, and this new Mario game. And when Mario jumped out of that manhole cover, an iconic game would be demonstrated throughout the world. In that trailer, Mario was running around a New York-like city with blissful music playing throughout the trailer. It just looked beautiful. It looked something innovative, looked something new, and it looked like a dream, and there was passion oozing out of this project, and something that we hadn't seen for so many years. And when the cap was thrown at the end of the trailer, the game was revealed to be Super Mario Odyssey. More info about this game will trickle in the next couple months after the release of the Nintendo Switch. Then the second trailer will launch at E3 2017 with this bombastic orchestral piece with the reveal of the main gimmick of this Mario game, being the capture mechanic. For Mario's Cap, which will be named Cappy throughout the adventure, Mario can capture different enemies and items throughout the game to aid him on his adventure to stop Bowser's wedding with Peach, a different story than the usual just capturing Peach. From dinosaurs to Goombas to bullet bills, it was truly a stroke of genius from the developers to allow Mario to play as any of these enemies to aid them in his adventure. This made the hype for the game even stronger, with the reveal of a release date being October 27, 2017. And when it launched, I didn't buy it. Yeah, I was like 10 years old at the time and already content with Breath of the Wild and Splatoon 2. While it would look nice to play this Mario game, and I was really wanting to play this Mario game, it was out of reach for that moment. So I waited until I saved up enough money to buy it in the summer of 2018, and despite the fact that I had seen so much gameplay of this game at this point, I didn't really care for spoilers. It did not hurt my actual experience playing the game for the first time. It was just truly incredible to play this game with my own hands, and it's just an experience I will never forget. So I like to actually share my experience with this game. There are many great things to talk about this game on first playthrough. The opening cinematic where we see Mario and Bowser on the airship with intense music playing, and see Mario getting his ass beat, and it's just so memorable, and a cool spin on kidnapping the princess. It was very interesting to see. And then upon losing to Bowser, Mario is dropped into the Cap Kingdom, where we are introduced to our sidekick throughout the rest of the game, Cappy. Cappy aids us throughout the adventure with the ability to capture enemies and objects. As stated before, this capture mechanic was a stroke of genius from the developer because it allows you to capture pretty much anything throughout the world and use it to your own advantage, which I think is something very cool and more games should do more often. And we really see this at play in the first kingdom of the game, the Cascade Kingdom, where we capture a dinosaur, and as the game progresses, there are many different types of enemies we can capture that all enhance our gameplay. And in that sense, I think the game pushed boundaries for what we as players can do to overcome said jumps, challenges, or obstacles we face around our adventure. But I argued something greater than a capture mechanic is just the movement in the game. That's the real thing that shines in this game. Because Cappy can be thrown, it enables us to have a platform on standby and thus allows us to do much larger jumps than before. In previous Mario games, we had our regular double jump, triple jump, side flip, back flip, long jump, and all these mechanics are present in Mario Odyssey, but Cappy's ability to be used as a platform in this game is what really makes it shine. This is because once thought impossible jumps in Mario games are now possible through Cappy, and leads to the most fluid movement ever produced in a Mario game. And this movement is so fluid in fact that it's kind of difficult to go back to the other 3D Mario games. Even though they have their charm, it's just this movement in this game in particular is so great. It makes it very enjoyable for anyone playing to just run and jump around trying to see what heights you can reach with Cappy. And in that essence, it captures the same open world feeling and exploration players felt when introduced to Super Mario 64 20 years before. It's really just a jaw-dropping experience, and controlling Mario throughout these vastly different kingdoms in the game is just a joy to experience. In this game, there are 17 different kingdoms, with 14 of them being part of the main story, and 3 unlockable post-story. The main story is such a great experience, jumping from vastly different kingdoms which differ in atmosphere and objectives and overall mechanics. From the Sand Kingdom to the Metro Kingdom to the f***ing Mushroom Kingdom, my god, they're really breaking new heights with this game. Regardless, all of these kingdoms are so fun to run around and explore every nook and cranny, and it's just a blast looking for the collectible in the game, Power Moons. The Power Moons are the main collectible in this game, and we have to collect a certain amount of Power Moons in each kingdom in order to progress throughout the game. And the way we progress throughout the game is through the Odyssey, our ship that takes us to each and every other kingdom in the game. And I want to talk about the bosses for a second in this game. They are very unique and enjoyable to defeat, though they're, I say, a tad bit easy to defeat on first playthrough. But overall, I like this compared to the Koopalings or just a few bosses period. I just like the creativity and the passion shown with these bosses and the unique mechanics you have to use to defeat them. All these things together make it so enjoyable to play on first playthrough because you kind of forget about the main story after a while. You just play the game just because of the fact it's so fun and so memorable to play. However, I do have a couple nitpicks. If you did notice, I called it nitpicks because I can't really call this game bad. It's so enjoyable to play that it's not bad in a sense. It just has, in my opinion, a bit of flaws. One flaw I consider is the story. It's a bit basic for a Mario game. Granted, it's a Mario game, so the story doesn't have to be too complex or anything, but even though it is a bit basic, it still progresses through the game well, and I like the uniqueness of the fact that Bowser tries to marry Peach instead of kidnapping, even though it's essentially the same thing, but it's a different way to twist it, and I kind of like that. Another nitpick I have of the game is the post-game Power Moons. I said before that Power Moons are very fun to collect in this game, and they are. Just after you defeat the main story within the game, Power Moons are added throughout each kingdom in the game, and in total it has 999 Power Moons. And while that may seem like a lot to collect, and it is, and seems like it will be fun to collect, it really isn't, because most of these Power Moons are repeated throughout each kingdom and becomes quite autonomous trying to collect each Power Moon in each kingdom. Especially the Princess Peach ones, those feel like a chore to do for each kingdom because you're basically doing the same thing in each and every other kingdom. Not really a nitpick here, but I do really wish they added DLC to this game. I mean, it was nice to see new outfits being added, and the release of Luigi's Balloon World was actually a very cool feature, and it's a great minigame to show off the skills you learn throughout the adventure and try to collect other users' balloons in a certain amount of time. But I just wish they could have made Luigi a playable character, for example, but I digress. It's just that it felt that this game had so much more DLC to be added, but the fact that they already put 999 Power Moons kind of limit that fact. I would have much rather preferred the game to have fewer Power Moons at launch, let's say for example 750, right? And then throughout the course of a year or two, they can add DLC to the game and then add more kingdoms and more Power Moons in those kingdoms to make the game more fleshed out and be more unique in general, because I feel like these kingdoms are filled to the brim with Power Moons. It's sometimes a bit overwhelming to collect every single one in each kingdom post-game. Also, I do wish the kingdoms that are already in the game, for example the Road Kingdom and the Cloud Kingdom, had a bit more to them. I mean, I know they are small and are meant to be small because they're boss kingdoms in a sense, but I feel like you can still add more to the concept, because Cloud Kingdom, you can make a whole Cloud City for example. The Ruin Kingdom has such a dark aesthetic that I really wish we could explore more of those aesthetics in Mario games, because that's something you rarely see in these games in general. But these are just a few nitpicks I have with the game, because overall this game is just incredible to play. This game and many others from 2017 made it a memorable year for gaming in general, and the sheer amount of creativity and polish this game shows is what I think will make this game a future classic. And despite it being 7 years after release, I still have so much fun just running around in this game. And this concept still has so much to explore. Like, I feel like a sequel could be made because the capture mechanic just has so much potential. Hopefully they can make a sequel in the future, or just expand upon these ideas in general into another 3D Mario game. But if that does not happen, this game has certainly made its mark on the Mario franchise and gaming as a whole.